my name is Stephanie and welcome to my channel. I kept meaning to do this video for ages and honestly I wasn't sure where to start, and also this is my first video so with me talking, so here I am. So what is the purpose of my channel? To talk about deaf awareness, how important closed caption is and my experience and everything else. To start with, I thought I would start with how I became deaf and all. I was born even with all my fingers and toes. Then 5 months later I got meningitis. I was pale and crying so much so mum called the first doctor, and when he came over to check on me he thought I was just teething. Then the next day I was still the same, so mum called second different doctor. When he came over he took one look at me and said, take her to the hospital now. I was ill for 1 week and recovered by then. The doctors weren't sure of any damage it caused. Until later mum started noticing the difference in me. Before I got ill, I would cry in my room and quieting down as soon as I heard mum walking towards my room. But after that, I would cry and cry until mum actually picked me up. So mum knew something was different, something had changed. So he took me back to the doctors. It was then they discovered that I'm profoundly deaf. It was a massive shock to my family back then. My parents then met up with a teacher on the deaf who told them to teach me speech and not use sign language, because the teacher believed that if I knew sign language I would never talk. My parents were like, she's profoundly deaf, how is she supposed to learn speech when she can't hear at all? So obviously speech did not work with me. They also tried hearing aids, which did not work because I was too deaf for them and I just broke them all the time. Eventually my parents found out about cochlear implants in their newspaper and they thought about it for a while. After some time my parents then met with a different teacher on the deaf who recommended sign and speech approach, so my parents started going to BSL classes. I was quite small when mum started signing to me whenever I woke up from my naps. The first time mum did that, she said my face was like trying to convey to say yes. So mum gave me the drink and carried on with that. This went on until I was about 3 or 4. This was when I had the cochlear implant operation. I cannot remember when I heard sound for the first time, though mum told me that I kept signing in the hospital corridor, and she assured me that I was lucky enough to went to a primary school with that unit where I lived. It was a nice school with even kids who are used to seeing sign language. Then when I was 11 I went to a deaf secondary school. Oh wow! Even though the deaf school was a oral school, but from the kids I learned so much dialects of sign language, and they used to laugh at my sounding because I'm sort of like a person with a funny accent. I used to get in trouble all the time for sounding to my friends. As far as I was concerned, the best method is always the best method with my friends. It wasn't always smooth sailing at school because I went to a mainstream college and university, which meant trying to get teachers to do the awareness course, which wasn't easy. Most of them refused and some forgot to do it. Not all the teachers were bad though. There were some ones who worked closely with me, so I'm very thankful for that. All the way through, I always had note takers and interpreters for classes and group work, which always have been my lifeline. And don't ask me about job search. In my experience, people always seem to think that since I speak quite well, that must mean I listen quite well because I have a cochlear implant, right? As great as they are, but it's not a miracle cure. It's just merely an advanced hearing aids for someone who's too deaf for regular hearing aids. And it takes a lot of work for CI to work, and I know that myself. For me, signing in that world and speech in hearing world and the best of two worlds. But when it's merged, it's an amazing thing to see in work and social. So yeah, that's that's my life story. For a long time, Mum and I always thought about doing the awareness in various ways until I saw videos about it on YouTube, and it seemed to be the best way for the properly. So that's what I'm doing. I'll be finishing this video as I'm sure it's quite long now. Okay, in my next video I will be doing my own version of silly thing that hearing people do or say to deaf people and why. So that'll be interesting. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.